Right, Nick. How did you first start writing Doctor Who novels? Did you just send one off on spec and it was accepted, or what happened?
I sent a few in submissions to Virgin when they started doing the new adventures. I sent a couple of ideas in but rejected. Um, I then sent some of the same ideas into the BBC when the BBC took over in 96, 97. They were rejected. And in the end, I got a Virgin New Adventure published called Dry Pilgrimage with author Paul Leonard, who was already known then. And it was one of those new adventures where they dropped the Doctor and carried on with Professor Bernice Summerfield as the main character. Basically, I wrote the book and Paul edited, and it was published. I got on the back of him, basically, from knowing him. So even though I thought that was an amazing achievement, I still didn't feel satisfied, and so I then continued to submit ideas to the BBC after that. And they accepted Dominion, and then they accepted the three after that. So yeah, but it starts off with, to some extent, who you know to get your foot in the door. But once you have got your foot in the door, you've got to have something to bring to the party, which I have, or did then, and still have.
What's your favourite of the Doctor Who books you've written?
I've written.
Mm.
Well, I think it might be Reckless Engineering, because that took such a long time and took over my life for so long, and the backstory of it I researched and developed so much that it became a parallel world to me almost. And although it has its faults, it did win the Doctor Who magazine award of 2003 for the best book. So I think, you know, I'm quite proud of that one.
Fantastic. And what's the story there then? Set
Oh,
in Bristol, isn't it?
it's part of they started an arc of stories about parallel universes, and it suffered slightly because they started alternating the Eighth Doctor books with the past Doctor books, so that you get a book every 2 months with this arc. So it was bogged down slightly by this ongoing arc. But I made my story as standalone as possible. It's basically the Doctor lands in alternate Bristol, where this temporal event happened 150 years previously that wiped out most of mankind. So by 2003, South Bristol is this barren landscape overrun with cannibalistic creatures, a bit like it is now, basically. I mean, it's basically what the Doctor has to do is go back in time to sort out the timelines. But the central conceit is he does that, and it doesn't sort out the timelines. Time is so fractured that it can't. And during this, he teams up with Isambard Tinian Brunel to help him sort things out. There is more to it than that. It's quite an emotional story, because you've got the idea, what Russell T Davies did in Aliens of London, of the Doctor bringing Rose back 12 weeks later, and it's actually 12 months, a year. I did that in Reckless Engineering. When one character goes to stay somewhere where time slows down for her, she comes back, and it's been 10 years. So I'm not saying I preempted Russell T Davies with that, far from it. It's just a good idea and emotional impact. So it's quite an emotional book, I find. And that's what I like about it.
Of all the alien races or monsters you've created in your books, which is your favourite?
I haven't actually created that. I suppose, I think in Dominion there's all those things that come out of the Dominion. But
The fox-like beings,
the fox-like
aren't
things, the Valeths, they were one of the first alien race I ever invented from when I first submitted the rejected ones. And they turned up in a story actually called Superior Beings, although there were previous versions of that with the same title. I like them because they aren't amoral. They do have a moral code of honour, but they have this blind spot where humans are concerned. They would see no difference between you, say, and a sheep or a cow. They just don't recognise we've got intelligence, and so they would slaughter us for food, and they wouldn't hear our talk and pleadings as anything other than just bleatings. And it took the Doctor to make them realise, or one of them realise, that we are a race, you know, to be respected. And I like them because they're quite funny as well, and you can make them quite darkly comical.
Your ones that were rejected, your lost stories.
Oh Christ!
Do you ever thought of revamping them for something else?
Well, yeah, there's one called Vegetable Matter, which is all about farming crinoids. And that was a damn good little story.
That sounds like a great idea. Why didn't they go with that? Is it copyright? Oh.
No, I think the plot got a bit bogged down, and I ended up publishing something else instead of that. And I can't remember what else. There was one, the original Superior Beings was a lot more complicated, and it had it had a horrible cliche of telepathic twins in it, so I could revisit that but take them out, and can't think of any others at the moment that can't bring out. I think the Crinoid one is the one I would revisit.
Yeah. And can you tell us a bit about Wings of the Owl Man?
Oh, Wings of the Owl Man is I can't say anything about its publication or otherwise, but it's a story idea that I floated to the BBC years and years ago, set in 1970s Cornwall, where the owl man, this mythical creature that looks like, it doesn't really look much like an owl, it's a man-sized thing covered in grey fur with lobster-like feet, claws on its feet and red glowing eyes. It was seen by several witnesses, and well, I don't know what audience this is for, but obviously you, Richard, and it's all that CF will know all the history. And I thought I'd have a story where an alien ship crash lands. This alien race used Tulpa's thought forms as their servants, the way that some alien races use clones or robots or humans as slaves. And the whole story develops around that. And I wanted it to be a love story, a homage to the 70s, the Fourth Doctor era. And that is currently in with the BBC. And I can't really say because they're not doing past Doctor Adventures now. And they may never do so again. But if they do so, I would ring them up and say, remember that story I submitted? Well, fancy.
Fantastic.
It's a long time ago now.
So, do you think you'll write any more?
Doctor Who? Yeah. Well, when I did publish, and a lot of the other authors that now don't get published as much, there was no Doctor Who on telly. When it came back on telly, the Doctor Who books were written by a very select group of people, basically BBC employees like Jack Rayner, Steve Cole, because they were so rightly terrified about leaks, and they wanted people they could absolutely trust. They're getting a lot more people like Michael Olowski and others, some that I've never heard of, involved now, and you really have to wait to be sort of chosen.
Yeah.
That said, I do have a few stories on the pile, but it's a bit frustrating. I could get a letter or email tomorrow saying that story. So it's up to the BBC really. But Doctor Who, I'm trying not to limit myself to Doctor Who. I write all the time short stories, and I've just started a new novel which I think is actually going quite well. So I think I'll try and push that rather than rely on the phone call from Auntie Beeb.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, mate.
No problem.
Cheers.
Thanks.